Welcome to Petra Ministries. My name is Elder George Fleming, and I am so happy today to be a part of the Men's Fellowship. We here at Petra Ministries are working hard on galvanizing our men. And so today we're going to hear from our very own Bishop Clay, who is going to talk to us, the men, about prayer. The foundation of everything that God is doing in a man's life to restore him to his right place is through prayer and worship. Stay tuned, and God bless you.
See, I want you to see prayer as a state of being. It's a state of being. It's a state of intimacy where you are constantly in dialogue with the Father. And sometimes, and I'll be the first to say, sometimes I want to take the phone off the hook. Because sometimes that dialogue comes in the form of conviction. You know, it's not just all good lofty stuff. Sometimes it's God saying in the midst of my interactions, you shouldn't have said that. Or your attitude was wrong in that. But it's keeping my spirit in that place of intimacy where I can hear that from God. Because I've learned I'd rather be rebuked by God than to be ignored by God. Amen. You know, I don't care if he's adjusting me. I've learned that's better than not being able to hear him.
That's exactly.
You know? So, I want you to see prayer in that way. Okay, I'm going past my time. We're good. Okay, let me hit these because I didn't get anything that I was showing. We can come back and hit some more. But I want to give you this real quick because it's critical. So there are three aspects of prayer that I think are important for the men to understand. So the first aspect is the prayer of supplication. So we've talked about that. That's the acknowledgement that God is the source and Him is everything that I need. If you are in this room right now and you're making a critical decision in your life, you don't have to make it without God. Stop, get in the presence of God and say, God, I acknowledge that you are the hand that provides for everything that I need. And I'm opening myself. I'm opening my spirit for those impressions, for those leanings, for those, you got me leaning. It's, so much of it is just learning to trust that God sits inside of you. And if your heart is pure, even if you miss it, God will be redemptive. So you don't have to live afraid of missing it. You don't have to live being afraid of, okay, was that God, was that not God? Don't fall into the trap of that. Attach your faith to something and then say, God, I'm trusting that if this is not you, you will be redemptive. Amen. Okay? He loves you enough. Amen. What father in here, if your child really thought that was what they were supposed to do, who's going to beat their child for doing something wrong? Right. No, what you're going to do, you're going to sit them down and say, that wasn't the way. This is the way that you do it. Right. Any way it goes, you're going to learn how to be more sensitive to God. Right. So that's supplication. Okay. The second is petition. The prayer of petition. And, maybe I'll get to this at some point soon, but this is a critical concept because the prayer of petition is a legal exchange with God. The difference between supplication and petition is that supplication is acknowledging He's the source of my supply. Petition puts me before the throne of God into the courtroom of God. Now, why is that significant? It's significant because God is bound by His own law. So when God says, this is what I'm going to do, that's law to God. So if God didn't do that, you could take God to court. Okay? So you got to understand that our relationship with God starts with intimacy, but there is a legal dynamic to this relationship. And so, not to get into all of the minutia of it, when you talk about adversary, the enemy is identified as the adversary. Two words, okay? Against rights. That's what adversary means. Against rights. So as a believer, I have rights that God has given that are legal rights. I have the right to believe that I can be healed. I have the right to believe that I can prosper. I have the right to believe that my children are going to be strong. I have the right to believe in a healthy family. I have a right to believe for influence in the earth. Those are things that God has given me by law.
Amen.
Not just I'm talking by law. I have a right to those things. And so when I'm petitioning God, I'm taking a posture where I'm going in the courtroom and I'm holding the document out. See, petitioning truly requires you to learn how to pray the scripture.
Amen.
It's going to God. We were in a prayer time of gathering. I never will forget. It was just something very supernatural about this moment that we were praying. We were praying about this land and about the shopping center and all of these things. And Elder Milton was praying, and he hit this place where he started crying out, "God, you said. God, you said." And he started repeating what the Lord had said. What the Lord had said about this land, what the Lord had said about this community, what the Lord had said about this ministry. And it was like, and it's interesting that by occupation, not vocation, but by occupation, he is an attorney.
Right.
So I don't even know if he knew that he had stepped into the realm of petitioning, where now, as an attorney, he was in the courtroom saying, "God, this is what you committed to.
Yeah.
And because you committed to this, and because you are bound to your own word, we are claiming the manifestation of these things."
Amen.
Glory, hallelujah.
Amen.
I get excited about the petitioning because it's petitioning is like, that's where your manhood comes out. Petitioning. You know, it's like in supplication, that's where the intimacy is. And that's where, Lord, I know I don't deserve this, and I know I'm a dog, and I know I messed up, and all of those things happen in that supplication. But when you step into that realm of prayer petition,
Amen.
now what you're saying is according to your word, God.
Yes.
You said that if I poured the right thing into these children,
Yes.
that they could not turn away from it. You said that I would be blessed in the city and blessed in the field. You said that I was above and not beneath. You said you would silence every accusation of the enemy. When you step into that dimension of petitioning, now what you're doing, you're holding God accountable for his own word. My God. And then the third aspect of prayer that's critical for you guys to understand is intercession. And this is where those that specifically are choosing to be a part of the watchman, this is going to be critical. Because hear the concept. God says, he's prophetically now talking about what Jesus Christ is going to do. And God is seeing the devastation of this creation. And I'm paraphrasing here. And he says, I need somebody that can stand in the gap.
Right.
It says he looked for a man.
Amen.
See, the enemy does not want men to have a prayer life. And this sounds awful what I'm getting ready to say, but I don't have time to clarify it. When a man prays, I'm talking about versus a woman. When a man begins to pray in the Spirit, because of what God put in your DNA to be that hunter that brings supply to the family, when you begin to walk in faith and a prayer life, man, I'm telling you, it will impact the family like nothing else. Like nothing else. And so God said, I look for a man.
Amen.
Okay? He looked for a man that could stand in the gap. And he says, when I couldn't find a man, I chose my own right arm.
Right.
So it's prophetic symbolism of the coming of Jesus Christ. And Jesus becomes the great intercessor that stands between God and man in the midst of humanity's brokenness. He stands in that gap. And he says, I'm going to keep pulling on both of these hands until these hands meet. Okay? And so intercession is a standing in the gap. It is a commitment You know, when you intercede, you are saying to God, I will take the blow. See, it's not just a holding of two different hands. It is saying, I will withstand the blow that was intended for the person on the other side of it.
Amen.
See, there are wars that people in this community are not equipped to fight. They're not equipped to fight yet. There's stuff that your wife can't fight. There are things that your children can't fight.
Amen.
But when you step into the place of an intercessor, you are standing in a legal position where now the enemy has to come through you to get to the one that's on the other side of you. And you're saying, I'm equipped to fight this battle. I'm equipped to stand. That's what Jesus did. He took the blow. See, it was a blow that was intended for us. It was a cross that was intended for us. But when he stood in the gap, he's saying, I'm able to withstand this blow. And I'm not going to be knocked out from it. I'll get up from it. Amen. And that's what he did. He took the blow, and then on the third day, he got up.
Amen. Amen.
See, when we stand as intercessors, we are saying, now, devil, you have to come through us to get to the family. You have to come through us to get to these children. You have to come through us to bring poverty into this community. You have to come through us to bring cancer into this person's life. And you're saying, I'm able. See, you know, you gotta have a right relationship with God to be an intercessor. Because if you stand in the way and you're not equipped, you will get knocked out. Okay? So you got to be in the right posture with God, because you're saying, I can withstand the blow and I know how to fight back. I know how to put the devil in his place. And what I'm telling you is, everything that we're called to do as men, and this is where I'm going to end. Everything that we're called to do as men, God will only honor that when we commit ourselves first to be intercessors. We can't be intercessors if we're not worshipers.
That's right. Amen.
Okay? So I was all over the place. That's where we start. Okay?